We're live. Morning. Welcome to Waffle Time. We are back in the Jesus again.
A slightly different waffle time.
A slightly different waffle time. It's like Acuvance time.
It's Acuvance time.
The artist formerly known as Kins is now Acuvance.
It's Acuvance Happy Hour.
Acuvance Happy Hour. I believe it is. And Acuvance always makes me happy.
It does.
Acuvance is a brand that when we very first started our business, we were very keen to try because we saw all the cool Japanese drivers running Acuvance stuff. So we were like, oh man, we've got to try Acuvance.
It was a bit like Overdose, where we sort of made a list when we started of the people that we wanted to deal with.
Yeah, it's like MST, Acuvance, Overdose, maybe like Speedway Power. We still need to get there with that one. But there's a few cool brands, and Acuvance was one of them because it was like all the.
Well, at the time it was Kins.
At the time it was Kins. Now it's obviously Acuvance. We've got to get that stuck in our minds.
Yeah.
Acuvance.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were really hyped on it, and then we got some in, and it's probably the only brand that we went on recommendation and didn't previously sort of. It was as much testing as normal.
We took a big gamble. It's the only time we've ever ordered anything without having previously tested it, and we ordered a lot of it, put a lot of money into stock, and had never actually seen it in the flesh.
We've always got stuff in here testing, and everything we sell, even with MST, we sort of
make sure
we test things before we go. This is a good product, this is something we should sell. There's never been anything from MST, incidentally, that's been this is awful, we won't sell it. But there's been other products that we've done that with.
There's been quite a lot.
But Acuvance isn't one of them. Acuvance has been amazing since the start.
Every time they release something new, it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Without fail.
Because it's well thought out, and I think that's the difference. Is they put so much time into thinking everything through before they release it that there's just it's hassle free. Well, it's very rare that there's an
for those that don't know, Acuvance is part of the larger Kins Corporation, and Kins is a huge multi-billion-pound company that manufactures hospital equipment, sensors. Yeah. They manufacture robotics. It's a serious serious electronics company, and the hobby stuff is just a tiny fraction of what they actually do as a company.
I'm not exactly sure how the hobby side started, but I'm going to speculate that the owner of it, Kins, just likes RC.
Well, I think it's turned into Acuvance basically because Acuvance is now the only element of Kins that sells directly to consumers.
Yeah.
Everything else that Kins produce is sold as Kins, but it goes through companies, corporations, and things like that, and it's generally bespoke builds and that kind of thing. So Acuvance is the brand name for anything that's sold to a consumer.
What it's also done is allow Acuvance now to have a little more free reign over what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Which means
we were lucky enough to go to the headquarters in Osaka in December and meet the president and the CEO. And
very lovely man.
Very lovely.
Very lovely man. And very nice people.
Had some very lovely gifts as well, which sat proudly in my.
Thank you very much for the support, Acuvance.
Yes.
It's greatly appreciated. And for the lovely lunch. Just for a lovely okonomiyaki.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to say that.
There's a special, I think that's what they're called. My memory's awful.
What was it?
But it's a very special.
What was the nickname?
Japananese pancake.
Osaka. What was it called? An Osaka omelette or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very tasty.
Osaka nomiyaki.
Anyway.
Could be. Forgotten. But yeah, it was amazing. But I digress. We should move on.
We should.
We can.
We are waffling.
This is waffle time. We're doing a giveaway.
Which you may have seen. We're doing a giveaway. All this stuff in front of you is going to be given away. Basically, we're going to do a few prizes. One lucky winner is going to win a Tashion Area ESC, a Luxon KG motor with coloured jacket, and a Tau 2 and a stick sheet.
Yep.
Which is a very good prize to win, and
that is a very expensive prize.
It's very, very expensive, but it's essentially a full setup.
Yep.
And we're going to give away some information about how to win it shortly, but basically, it's a happy time for us, a happy time for everyone else. We are also going to give away motor jackets to some other winners with sticker sheets, and then the rest of the sticker sheets.
Let's make a visualization of this. So if you win, you get all of that, and then 3 more dudes. This is a lot of stuff. We're going to be poor. We're going to win this,
and then
a bunch more of you are going to win some of these.
Yes. This is open to anyone all around the world. We're happy to ship anywhere because we're nice people.
This is about sharing the love.
Yes, it is.
So
we're basically going to, well, the way to enter is basically you need to be subscribed to our YouTube channel.
That's down there, isn't it?
Yes, it's down there. I don't know. I can't do
it's
that.
Down here somewhere.
I suppose it depends whether you watch on a phone or not as well. It's,
depending on which orientation you have.
Basically, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you need to have liked our Facebook page, and you will also need to share a post that we'll be posting up right after this video containing a link to this video.
Yep.
But yeah, basically share that, and in a week, next Friday, we'll select a winner.
So grand prize must have subscribed to YouTube and shared it on Facebook.
Yes.
And we will be selecting everybody from YouTube, so you have to subscribe on YouTube to be in with a chance to win.
Yeah, that's the
grand prize is both.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep.
So everybody basically needs to go on YouTube, subscribe to us, and share our post on Facebook.
Which isn't up just yet if you're watching this live.
Yeah, so everybody...
Within 10 minutes of us finishing.
Maybe 20.
Maybe 20.
But anyway, that's what you need to do.
Depending on how long we waffle on for.
To win all this stuff.
Yes. Anyway.
Not all of it, but...
So what we're going to do today, rather than just a standard waffle time where we just talk about the usual stuff, we're going to actually talk a bit about the Acuvance products. So what we're going to do is take you through some of the different areas or some of the different ranges of products that they sell, and explain some of the reasons why they're as awesome as they are and how to get the best from them. We're not going to go into a full in-depth guide with everything, purely because we don't really have time. Otherwise we would. But if everyone...
We could. I mean, we are pretty good at waffling at this point.
There's a good chance we're going to waffle on for several hours anyway.
Yeah.
So if this video turns out to be 3.5 hours, then I'm sorry. But there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to start with ESCs.
I'll just do this. I don't know if you'll be able to pick it out on camera.
Essentially,
you can see little glimpses of colour.
The Acuvance Tashion area is awesome. It's the very, very, very best ESC that we've ever used. Not only for drifting, but also for racing. We use these when we race buggies in the past. They're full of options and tunability. And the quality of components is second to none. Nothing comes even close to these. Reliability is incredible. They have built-in protection for reverse polarity that requires a very small repair. They're just ace.
Well, in terms of reliability, I've been running. I still have the original one from whenever we started this, and it still works and it's still going. And I scream these things. I put horrific settings in them.
Yes.
Because it's up to us to testing.
Anyone who was at the Euros last year in Holland, who knows how hot the temp was, and how hard I was running mine with full boost, full turbo, and I made it quite far into the competition, so I had a lot of runs as well. Knows that these things are bomb-proof.
They take a beating. They take a beating.
I mean, other brands were fine there as well, but the power and speed that we had from these was quite incredible.
Just going to point out mine in my chassis, and also that one's the Shine Red, which is there. We've got different colours, so Shine Red, Pearl Black, Shine Blue, White Carbon, and Matte Black, which are all price-wise are all the same, apart from the Matte Black, which is
Matte Black and the White Carbon, I believe, or the Pearl Black. I can't remember. There's two there, slightly more expensive. I can't remember, to be perfectly honest.
I'm not really sure. But there are colour options as well as as well as it just being awesome anyway. So you've got different colours of awesome.
We're quite lucky as well in that the ESCs that we stock here, we have custom made for us by Acuvance, and they come with black wires instead of the usual coloured wires.
Black wires instead of the red. I can't even remember.
The orange, yellow, and blue.
Yeah. So
for the motor wires and also for the basically we like the all black look as Mitto was showing you on, or showed you on his.
Yep.
So we make sure that we get them for our customers.
Nice and clean.
Which is ace.
But that's something I believe Acuvance have done a special run of their own now, based on on what we've done with them, and obviously they've gone.
Well, even now, then it's not a standard item.
Yeah, it's not something off the shelf. So there's
you will also notice that some of these have stickers on that say they're for the Tau 2, and that's because Acuvance regularly release updates for these ESCs with better firmware. It is pretty easy to update them. There's a couple of little awkward things you have to get around, but that's Windows, not Acuvance. That doesn't look like a very secure tower to me.
It's fine. It works.
At some point, they're all going to fall over. I'm pretty sure.
There you go. That's beautiful.
There is lots of programming that's available on the Tashion area. You can program a lot of it via the button on the switch. But
I've got a switch there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was trying to look for something to show. It's the same as most ESCs. There's a button on there that you can use to calibrate your EPA or your endpoints, and there is a lot of tuning that you can do. But to get the true or to have the full range of adjustability and tunability, you will need to purchase a Tau program card, Tau 2 program card, such as these.
Now we're pretty much just going to recommend
the Tau 2.
Tau 2, yeah.
The Tau 2 has now been released in 3 flavors. There is the Tau 2, which is what I have here.
Yep.
That comes with well, if I put it this way, the red box is now just a Tau 2, which basically just means you have to hardwire it in to your.
Yeah, you literally use a
receiver
wire,
and plug straight into the bottom,
straight in, off you go,
and you're done. There is also I'm trying to see which one's which. We appear to have. There we go, that one there. There is the Tau 2 that comes with the brain unit, which is the original standard one that we originally had in stock.
The brain unit, just to explain, is the box. If you look at my chassis,
the brain unit is a Bluetooth adapter, and not only that, it's also an expansion device.
What it's expanding, we can't tell you right now.
No, but you're going to be very excited when you find out. That's coming later on, but basically the expansion or the brain unit is there to allow future devices to be plugged in. It also, as I say, is a Bluetooth module, so you can wirelessly update your ESC settings without having to even take the car off the track. You can just pull over, stop, change some settings.
The only thing you can't do it is do it in real time. So if you're driving, you can't have someone mapping your car while you're driving. You have to stop. And then
the car just has to be stationary. It can be stationary for a couple of seconds. It's fine. So you can have.
It's literally the flash time. So you're talking
3 seconds, maybe.
3 seconds. Yeah, it's instant basically.
But you can make it's fast enough that you could make an adjustment between runs in a competition.
Absolutely.
Very easily.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, when we're at the Worlds and I'm competing, that will be in my pocket, guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But so the Tau 2 is also now available, which we probably should have opened in a very limited edition run. See, this is the standard Tau 2.
Can't see that, it's off screen.
Oops, and it's also fallen over. You'll need to hold that below and unbox this.
I'll hold this.
Basically, it's white with a silver brushed aluminium back, and the limited edition version has a black brushed aluminium back. These are very limited edition. They made 100.
100 in the whole world.
In the whole world, and we had 10 of them, which was the remaining 10 by the time I found out about them. Unfortunately, the way things work in Japan is if something's a limited edition and not readily available, it sells fast.
Yes.
So we grabbed the rest of them, which was 10. We have these in stock right now. If you're watching this video on repeat in a few weeks, we probably won't have these. So grab them while you can.
It's also worth pointing out the additional features on it.
Yes.
We've got the motor sensor.
Yep, you can actually do some diagnosis of ESC and motor problems. Which is very helpful. It's not the most comprehensive diagnosis. It's not going to tell you about a minor defect, but if there's something seriously wrong with the circuit, it'll tell you where the problem is.
Like a dead sensor wire, and it also has the option to check your battery balance as well.
Yes, it does also. Your settings are stored on an SD card as well, which is helpful because it means you can change them from device.
So you can have hundreds of them and just click them in and out of them of the unit.
Well, you don't need to. There's plenty of storage on there, but it does mean if your friend wants your exact settings, rather than sitting and copying, you can put that into a computer, copy the file over, done.
SD card on the side,
which is very helpful. They are very, very, very good devices, and we used to stock the original Tau for those that know what that looks like. It's an earlier version of these, but these are so good we don't bother anymore.
No, I mean there is a difference in price, but for what you pay in that difference, it's so much more of an experience, and for me, that's what the Acuvance experience should be.
Just a quick note on price. We're not going to really discuss price in this video because prices change quite a lot,
exactly,
and fairly frequently. So if you want to check out pricing, go to solarc.com and you'll find all our prices on there.
There you go.
Right. So,
continuing on with that, obviously we've got some
additional
items and accessories.
This one's not going to show up very well. Right, unplug that device, it might show up better.
You mean this translucent?
This translucent clear thing, which won't show up on this very well, but basically it's a clear jacket to protect the rack. It's a slightly rubberized case, essentially, for your Tau 2. It does protect it if you drop it, protects the corners. They're very good.
It's got those.
We also have brain units. So these are individually pairable. So you have a pin number for each brain unit. So if you have two chassis with 2 brain units, you can only communicate to one at a time.
But it also means you can have one on and you know, sort of send it to that one, then put a pin in, send it to the other one.
Exactly. So it's very, very easy. The pairing process is pretty simple. Obviously, if you were to buy the basic unit that doesn't come with a brain unit, you'll need one of these to enable the wireless options and the expansion.
But that means you can stagger the cost, or
it does.
You know,
you can add it in later on.
You
can add it on when future devices are released, if that's the way you want to go. If you're happy using a wired connection, it does mean also if you have one of the others that includes a brain unit, you can have a second one for a second chassis. So if you're on 2 chassis, you don't have to take it out of one to put into the other.
It's also worth mentioning about the extension cable.
I was going to say that's the next thing I was going to talk about. The brain unit is designed, as Mitto has shown on his chassis, to fit seamlessly into the bottom of the Tachon area ESC. So basically, you plug it in, and the brain unit actually comes with screws for you to fit to the bottom of the.
So basically, a long screw that goes all the way through and
clamps it down.
Clamps them together.
It does effectively double the height of the ESC, but they are very small ESCs anyway, so it's not so much of a problem. If you were running a standard ESC for most manufacturers, it have a fan on top, and it's roughly the same height anyway. The other option that you have is using the brain connecting wire. You can actually plug this wire into the bottom of the ESC, plug the other end into the brain unit, have them next to each other on the chassis, or
wherever you want, really.
I don't know how long that wire is, but it's roughly about 10 minutes.
It's also just while you mentioned it, also while you mentioned it, we were saying about a standard ESC normally having a fan on top. One of the key features of the Acuvance ESC is the ceramic plate on top. So the way it's cooled is different to most.
It's quite funny actually, because I often read about people saying that these get hot, and they say it as a negative, like, oh, the Acuvance, it runs too hot. It's designed to run hot. With
the ceramic plate is designed to get hot because it's taking everything out of the
way a traditional ESC will work is it would normally have an aluminium heatsink on top or something like that will cool it if air is running over it, but normally most ESCs come with a fan to draw air over the heatsink to do the same job. The Tachon area is designed with a ceramic heatsink, which is basically doing the same job, but much more efficiently. It draws the heat out of the ESC itself, and any air passing over will take the hot air away. But even in we ran these in 1/10 2-wheel drive buggies, which obviously are they have a very enclosed body shell. And they're absolutely fine. They can run very hot. We have a sort of golden rule that if you can touch it, it's fine.
If you can put your finger on it and hold it there, no problem. If you can put your finger on there for a minute or so and it hurts, like, it's probably still okay. If you put your finger on it and the end of your finger melts, that's probably around the limit.
Which I was going to say, I haven't actually found that yet.
No. And I push these, well, we both do. We push them incredibly hard.
Running big turbos and a lot of power and a lot of frequency on there.
Exactly. It's also worth mentioning that never put a fan on the key and ceramic. Never force air down onto it. You can put a fan next to it and blow air across it. That's not a problem.
Or you can put it above, pulling air up generally.
Away from it. Yeah. So you're always drawing air across the plate, but never firing air onto it, because you don't want to cool the surface of the plate. That's a bad thing for it. You just want to draw the air away. So, what other options do we have there? We've got a.
We also have the. This
sensor.
is speaking about heat. The motor temp sensor is designed to plug straight in, and basically it just reads your motor temperature on there. The cool thing with the Tau 2, which we've glossed over quite a few major details here because we're a bit short on time, but the Tau 2 is actually has a full data logging function.
Yeah.
And it can log a whole ton of stuff, including the throttle position, speed, because it can calculate the speed based on some inputs.
Yeah.
It can calculate, it can display your motor temperature. It can display a whole ton of stuff, and it can save that for quite a long period of time. I can't remember the exact amount of time, but it could easily log an entire race. You can also save the log and view it back, which is very helpful actually. I've done it. One thing I was very aware of is one of the functions when you update to the latest software and use the Tau 2 and the Tachyon area together is you can enable a rev limiter, which some people will have seen the video that I posted on YouTube, I don't know, a year ago, 18 months ago, something like that, showing the rev limiter function. It's very helpful, but actually I use the data logging to find out where I should set my rev limiter, because I found out I wasn't getting anywhere near as high RPM on the particular small track that we had that month that I thought I would. I thought I was going to be hitting 50,000 RPM, and I was actually only hitting 23.
Yeah.
Which, that kind of thing is helpful. It obviously enables you to protect your motor and your ESC and not run things too hard, especially if you're in a noisy environment or running in racing where there's lots of beeps and cars running and that kind of thing, where maybe you can't hear the rev limiter kicking in or anything like that anyway.
But again, you've got an audio plug-in option on that, and it will beep up warnings.
Definitely.
For you.
There are a ton of settings available on the Tau 2, and huge resolution on each of the individual settings.
Yeah.
You can run up to 32 kilohertz on drive frequencies and things like that, which
is bananas, really.
Well, it's twice as much as the
16 or.
Well, it's twice as much as the old Tau software would run on the original Tau, not the Tau 2, and that was the best by miles.
Yeah. So this is beyond ridiculous.
It's silly. You can do all the usual stuff like drag brake and set your punch and your initial brake and that kind of thing. You can obviously set voltage cutoffs, and you can also set operation mode to include a reverse or not include a reverse. You can also invert the motor direction,
which is very useful, because the old Tau you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So that makes life very easy.
A whole load of turbo settings and boost settings and things like that. We're not going to go into any details on this because it would take us. We could do a 3-hour video just on each of the settings.
We could do a 3-hour video just on that thing.
Yeah, exactly. So they're very, very, very good bits of kit. They are a bit more expensive than everyone else's option, but it's significantly better than any we've ever come across.
Now, if you're running
an older Tachyon area,
you will need to update that.
You can use the update device kit. Basically, this is just an adapter to convert your receiver wire. I've got one out of the packet here. This is it. It's literally just an adapter to go from USB to your receiver wire, so that you can, or your ESC wire, sorry, so you can plug it in.
Now, some of the people online were having trouble with actually enabling these things to work. What's the trick?
Well, it's actually very simple, but without spending quite a lot of time finding out what the problem was, I probably wouldn't have ever worked it out. Essentially, if you're using Windows 7 or Windows 8, or any variant of either of those, you'll need to disable digital driver signatures to be able to.
How would a layman like myself do that?
The easiest way to do it is to search for a guide on how to disable digital driver signatures in the version of Windows. Digital driver signatures. Essentially, what it is a it's very descriptive. It's a digital signature that tells Windows that the driver for the device is safe. Unfortunately, with a company like Acuvance that doesn't do a lot of software development, it's not worth them becoming licensed to have digital driver
Because
signatures, because there is only a couple of bits of software that they do, and it's very, very small. So essentially, you just need to disable it while you install. Very, very importantly, you only disable it while you're installing the software for the update devices, for either the TAO or the ESCs. Is
that something that normally would automatically re-enable when you start?
Yeah, when you restart your computer following, it will be back enabled. The process, basically, you do a special startup that disables it for a one-time.
Okay.
It is really, once you've done it once, it's easy, but you will need to follow the guide because it varies by versions of Windows and things like that. But essentially, you click a couple of buttons, it restarts. You press number 7, I think, and then it all works. So that, if you don't do that, Windows won't recognise the USB device, and it won't recognise your TAO2 if you plug it in. Because when you update the TAO2 using your very handy extendable USB device, that just goes straight into the bottom of the device. So you don't need the update device to update the TAO2 itself, but you do need it to update an ESC.
There you go. So that is updating resolved. Go and search for digital driver signature disabling.
Yes.
That is I can't even believe I said that in a sentence.
I can't believe how many times I said it without getting it wrong. But basically, Acuvance are working very hard on updating the TAO2 software so that we're on version 1.2, I believe, right now. The updates are relatively small, but they are listening to feedback that people are giving, so it's very good to see. Battery life will be much improved if you go to 1.2, I believe.
The update version? The
update version, because they've changed the automatic shutdown timer, or they've given you the option to change the automatic shutdown timer. And by default, it was about 15 minutes, I think. So every time you thought your TAO2 was off, it was actually still on for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So that it could start up faster and things like that. But they've changed all that now, so your battery life should improve massively.
Improving as well. The next little step to our ensemble. These things, which are wires, and I will just get some more of them out. Acuvance do a lot of wires and accessories, so we're trying to show you all of them today.
Yeah, they have a much bigger range than anyone else, as far as I'm aware, that manufactures ESCs or similar components. And as we mentioned right at the start of this video, the quality is exceptional.
Yes, exactly.
In every single item, it's exceptional. It's not just good; it's significantly better than anyone else's product.
Now we're not experts on wire, but you've had a chat with someone that is.
Well,
with regards to
our
strands per core or something.
I can't remember any exact stats, so I'm not going to quote anything. But essentially, we're in a position where we know a lot of guys that build full-size race cars. We also know some guys that wire full-size race cars, including Le Mans cars and full-on
high-end stuff,
super high-end race cars. And me being a bit of an idiot, not being able to solve that, and when we first got Acuvance gear, I took it to see one of our friends that is one of these experts, and originally he was mocking me for having coloured wires until he looked at the wires and he literally just said it's some of the best wiring he's ever seen. Or the wire quality, I should say.
Exactly.
He's ever seen. And the factory solders on the ESCs are incredible.
Yeah.
Which is a very brief point that we should.
It took me quite a while to be able to break them. And the trick to the wiring. Well, we'll go through the products first, and then I'll hand in a few tips. But the wiring, like I say, is exceptionally high quality. Different color options. We've got luminous green and luminous pink, orange and luminous pink, blue and red, or black. We also have red and black, which is on the shelf behind me. And then we also do all of these in 12 gauge and 14 gauge.
Yes.
Then we do the wire clamps to hold them all neatly in place.
They're very nice wire clamps, actually. They slot together and they do lock. It is worth mentioning they're designed for the Acuvance wire. Yeah. So if you try and fit them on a different brand of wire, they may be a bit tight.
Fit, especially lower quality wires. Wire quality just isn't just how thick it is; it's how many strands are in the core of it.
And also, but also there's a lot of variation in terms of
how they're woven,
thickness,
exactly.
And things like that. So there's no guarantee it'll fit on another brand, but it is guaranteed to fit on an Acuvance.
Absolutely.
Wire. And they're designed to hold up to 3 wires.
They're a little small to be shown on camera, but by all means, go on their website and have a look. And there's a million pictures of all these things out there. Also, what Acuvance do is a selection of wires for the ESCs. So you have your on-off switch, your receiver wire, and sensor leads. Now these are the short 50mm versions, but they go all the way up to 250mm, so you can get massive long ones to put them in buggies or, you know.
Yeah, it just
put them in a different.
The cool thing with this is they're all easily interchangeable because they're just on plugs, so there's no soldering or anything like that. And it does mean you can tweak your wiring to suit your chassis.
Exactly.
If you have, for example, when I used to run my FSO1D from MST, I had the 250mm sensor wire, had no problems installing the ESC.
Exactly.
These, obviously, it's worth mentioning as well, the sensor wires will fit any ESC that uses traditional sensors. So you can use them on other brands as well.
Yeah, the sensor wires are universal.
They're flexible and they're flat, and they're actually very, very easy.
And the on-off and the receiver wire are
just for the Tachyon area.
Tachyon area, Acuvance specific. But we've got those wires in the options.
Yeah.
And also we have bullet connectors. So you've got your standard 4mm, that's a 4mm short. We also do a 4mm long for your batteries.
Yeah.
So we've got those, and we also do a male and female bullet banana connector.
Bullet. They're 3.5 mil.
Of things. So they're 3.5 mil, and these come with. I really hope you can see that on the camera, but they come with very small tags on the end of them.
It's going to be really hard to see on camera, but
well, basically, it's got like a little stump that's designed to be soldered into the motor.
You won't be
able to see that either, but they're very useful little things, and it basically means you can plug or unplug your motor wires very easily.
Which is handy if you're changing motors or switching between chassis and you need.
That's them fitted on mine actually. Don't they? Can you see that at all?
That's them fitted in a slightly fancy way. That's not quite how they're designed to be fitted.
No, it all works.
Yeah.
So you can adjust the angles on them and mess around a bit, which is super useful.
Yeah.
So we have those, and there are more bullet connector options, but we don't have all day.
No, we don't.
So there's those. The next major thing from Acuvance, which is a big one.
It's also very unique to Acuvance for the most part. If we just start with these two for now. Acuvance capacitors are the best that there are by a million miles. Nothing even comes close. Most companies will include a capacitor that's very similar to this, which is known as a surge killer, which is a basic type capacitor that just stores a bit of voltage. So if you gun the throttle, there's power there available for the motor.
Most of the time, perfectly adequate.
Most of the time, it's perfectly adequate. Some racers use giant capacitors. Some people swear by using audio capacitors and things like that. Don't worry about any of it. Basically, that will do the job for anyone up to a mid-level drifter in particular.
Yeah. Especially with the Acuvance ESCs,
Yes.
you know, you don't really need to go wild with capacitors.
The Chevalier is basically a low resistance, slightly upgraded version. It's one of those products that's easy to drop, but it's basically an upgrade over the standard surge killer, and it's sort of an entry level capacitor, as it were, because the Acuvance capacitors, for people that haven't used them, may seem quite expensive. So if we start with the turbo.
Start with the turbo.
So the Chevalier Turbo is basically a capacitor that does the same as the basic ones, but it also actually smoothens out the throttle signal effectively. It's like a tuning. It turns the throttle circuit into a tuning circuit, and it refines the signal essentially. You'll see they are slightly chunkier than the standard capacitors. The turbo is designed to smooth out the signal mostly at the top end of your RPM. So when you're, if you're running particularly, I'd say a touring car that's on road, high RPM, it'll be a superb fit. They're also really good if you're using drift cars, but using high RPM for your drifting. The next one will be the Dash, which looks very similar. It's slightly different size, does exactly the same kind of job, but that is designed to work at low to medium RPM. So it's excellent for drifting because particularly when you're coming back onto the throttle from braking and things like that, the signal is very smooth, and it's one of those things. if you remove one of these capacitors, you notice it so much.
You notice it more than when you put it on.
Yeah.
However, the latest one that just came out is this one,
the Master,
the Chevalier Master, and this is the first capacitor I've put on that immediately I've gone, wow.
Yeah, that is it's a replacement for the Boost, which is now discontinued. It's slightly fatter. It's a lower profile but wider.
Yeah, but there is, to be fair, there is one. I mean, my electrics are quite tidy, and there is one hidden in there.
Is it in the centre?
In there.
So yeah, the Master, I actually haven't used one yet because they only arrived this week and I haven't driven it this week. But you used yours on Wednesday night.
Yep. Put it in, and immediately I had low end. I had a lot more pickup, and the mid range and top end were much cleaner. So it did for me. It said two things: one, that the Master is very, very good, and two, that I was using a turbo, and it was probably the wrong capacitor to be using on this particular circuit. But that is the ESC that was running at the Euros. So at the Euros, the turbo was the right one, but it definitely enlightened me to actually using capacitors for tuning and having capacitor options available. So now I'm looking at it and thinking, well, how am I going to make my capacitors quick change? But
that's probably going to be the next step for you, I guess.
It is for sure, because the difference in that for me was like, wow, and it's not that the turbo was bad. It's just the turbo wasn't right here.
No, exactly.
And and actually having that tuning in there and sort of having that realization.
I've realised we haven't mentioned that the Master is designed to work at low, medium, and high RPM.
Yeah, so
it's basically the all singing, all dancing capacitor. I would have no hesitation recommending anybody to fit that, and that nobody will ever be disappointed. And also, I would highly recommend racers use them.
Yeah,
they're not very well utilised by racers at the moment. I think it's something that people need to try for sure. I would have no doubt that would make your throttle control much smoother.
Yeah.
Which I think in racing is particularly important.
Well, in racing or drifting, the car that's easy to drive is always the fastest, so always the car that wins. If you're relaxed when you're driving and the car's doing all the work for you, all you've got to do is just sit back and let it happen,
Yeah, just don't put any effort in.
In theory. In theory. So that's those. Many capacitor options.
Yes.
Obviously, another thing that's pretty bespoke to Acuvance. And then moving on to the finale, we've got these bad boys. The Luxon KG and the Luxon BS.
Dual BS.
Dual BS. Or BS Dual.
It's something that Acuvance are very, very, very well known for, and they have previously in the old Brush days been known when they were Kians as having the best motors.
Yeah. Well, and ESCs previously when it was Brush, Acuvance,
but particularly
Kians was was the best. I mean, they used to be dealt all over the world. So it's one of those things where because they take their time with things, they sort of phased out a little bit when everyone went over to brushless, and they took their time with it, which is why the areas ended up being so good, and why the motors are so damn good, because they took their time.
We get asked all the time, what's the difference between a Luxon KG and a Dual BS? And the difference is very very simple, really. The KG has fixed timing on the motor. It's incredibly smooth.
I believe the timing is at 0.
I believe so, yes.
I believe so. So it's 0 timing and incredibly smooth.
Yes.
Is the kind of the features of the KG.
With interchangeable motor jackets as well. So you can change them for a purple, a blue, a red, or a matte gunmetal. Or gunmetal, sorry. And obviously they come with silver as well. So you can use them to fit with your chassis cover. We use the KG from when we started until fairly recently, really, because there was no need for us to upgrade. We didn't see it. The Dual BS came out and it wasn't a massive rush to move on to it. But I'm pretty glad I have moved on to the Dual BS now, because it's a different motor in terms of it's got mechanical timing that you can tweak.
Yeah. What's the range on?
0 to 45 or 50 degrees.
Which is a lot. Was it? Well, it says on the end of it.
It does, but the scale only goes up to 40, and then there's more afterwards. I don't know if that's 45 or 50, because I haven't got time to count.
That's getting there. That's 45.
But essentially, anyone who's using that amount of mechanical timing, it's probably crazy.
Yeah,
Because
crazy.
they also have a very unique feature, which is very good for races, actually, in that the rotor has a built-in fan, which is what the BS stands for. It actually stands for bass sound, because the motors sound different. It's not a cheesy gimmick that's designed to make it sound like something. It is a cooling fan that just produces a different sound. These actually can run up to 20 degrees cooler than the Lux on KG. So if you're racing and struggling with high motor temperatures, these things are the thing to have. They're very, very well
It does
designed.
make a big difference. I've seen the effects myself.
Yeah.
And they're quite substantial.
The other cool thing with the dual BS system is that it's rebuildable very easily. You can tweak, you can change options, you can replace parts as well if you damage something. There is one thing that I'll mention very, very quickly, which I've dropped there. If you're using an FXX or an FRD, where drift chassis that is, where your motor slides through a bulkhead, you may find that the flat countersunk screws are better than the slightly boned, which you won't be able to see on this camera. Standard screws.
So basically, the standard motor comes with a small button head screw.
Yeah.
And then we also have an option in silver or black for a countersunk screw, so that it's completely flush. That particular set is the silver set. So we have those available. So there are options there. The other new set of options that we have are these things.
Rotors. This is a relatively new thing that's not long been released, but you can actually change the rotor that comes with your motor for a slightly different sized one in terms of diameter. So it changes. Obviously, it's available as a spare, as a replacement if ever you had reason to, if you damaged the shaft or anything like that. But it's actually something you can do some tuning with, which is pretty interesting, and I think opens up a lot of doors for people, really, because you can fit a smaller, lighter rotor that will give you faster. If you think about it like a flywheel, it will rev up faster and it will go to higher RPM. Or you can fit a slightly thicker rotor, which will give you more torque and more.
So in layman's terms, you could turn a 10.5 into 11.5.
Not exactly, but you can tweak. It'll be a similar effect, you can tweak things slightly. So it's going to be interesting to see what people go with. I think it's going to be handy to have a couple of those available, and it doesn't actually take very long to swap them either.
No, matter of minutes.
Just a few screws.
And additional to that, Acuvance also do a spares range. So that's the front cover remover to allow you to do that. So there is a specialist tool for doing that, so that you don't clank any of the magnets about. Additional to that, we do a bearing puller and bearing replacement.
That's not for the dual BS. That is for the KG.
That's for the KG, but Acuvance tools. And then also we have various spares to allow you to repair old or damaged motors. So we have ceramic bearing kits for the KG motors, and the ceramic bearings and everything. The bearings are good for 100,000 RPM.
Yes,
that's right.
It's not that we recommend you go to 100,000 RPM.
It's the only limitation on the revs is the bearing.
Yes.
That's kind of.
The other components are capable of higher, but be very, very, very wary running your motor at high RPM, because there is a lot that can go wrong other than just the bearings in terms of pinions and things like that.
Yeah, not everything can take that sort of velocity.
It's not something I would ever recommend, but it's worth being aware of.
Yeah. So continuing on, we have the bearing for the BS. That's the front cover bearing. We also have the rear bearing for them, and front cover complete. We have the rear timing scale and the rear cover, and also the sensor module with the bearing in it. So you can replace all of the individual items in your BS motor as well.
Yeah.
So it's completely
it's not quite
self-service.
It's not quite possible to build a motor from spares. There are certain things like the actual can itself and the terminals that are not available as spares at this current time. But essentially, you can, if you damage something or if you have a fault, it's easy enough to repair them.
Exactly. So that option is there. Speaking of repairs, something else that we're doing in here.
Yep.
We've got some little PCBs.
Yeah, this isn't something that most Acuvance dealers are trusted with, but we're fortunate enough that, as I say, we've met the guys from Acuvance. They've given us a little bit of training. They're going to continue to teach us how to service their products so that it reduces repair costs essentially and time. So there's a bunch of repairs we can now do here without having to send them off, and hopefully in the future there'll be even more.
But that's something that you know, eventually we'd like to sort of be authorized as a service center for Acuvance. So you know, these things they take time, and it's a very complex product at the back end, and obviously a very extensive range. So it takes a while to build up and get there, but you know, we're working on it.
Yeah, I mean,
golly.
We're very proud to be Acuvance dealers for sure.
Yeah,
and we're very proud to be
supported by Acuvance as well. Yeah,
and we are lucky enough that we get to test products for them. We, as some of you may know, we were testing the TAL2 firmware on the old TAL device. But it wasn't exactly the same firmware, but it was.
It's very similar.
It was
development version.
Yeah. We tested that for a good year with no faults at all.
Yeah,
no fault
absolutely.
At all.
And that included you know, going to European competitions. It included going on Tetsujin tours. It included going to Utabe Arena and going absolutely ballistic there.
Yeah.
So there, you know, the testing that was done was pretty hardcore. And that ESC, I did some settings with Renato from R31 House, who's also sponsored by Acuvance. And he put settings in there that were
terrifying.
Terrifying, yeah.
The noise your car made when he got back from Japan was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyone who was down here when Mitto got back from Japan in 2013 will know the noise.
It sounded like a jet.
Yeah, it was unreal.
Some kind.
I had no idea that any car could make that much noise.
Yeah.
But that was partly the Triple X with metal gears and that kind of thing.
I'm calling it Acuvance. But it's one of those, you know, that it is capable of that, and it's capable of incredible punishment, and just taking it. So that is the Acuvance range, or at least as much of it as we've got, which is
as much of it we can talk about today without using hours and hours and hours of our day.
Exactly. So yeah, so please enjoy. Go on the website.
Well, we also asked people to ask us some questions about Acuvance, which we actually got quite a good review.
I was leading into that.
We've got
my flow.
We've got a good few questions come in. Alex Wilson's asked, does it really matter what motor you choose in terms of terms? Yes, it does. Makes a huge difference. Firstly, the prefix for this reply should be, you need to check the rules for the competition that you plan to enter. A lot of drift competitions in particular limit you to a 10.5 motor. Normally that is a fastest option. You can run a 13.5 or 17.5 or 21.5 or whatever, but you do need to check the rules because some competitions will limit to only a 10.5.
If you're drifting, generally the low end, like a sort of 7.5 is about as low as you'd ever go, and at the high end, 21.5 is as high as you're ever going to go. But generally, something around 10.5, 13.5 is kind of the golden drift.
These are both my motors, and I have a 10.5 and a 13.5.
And there's my 10.5, and that's got a 10.5 in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, 10.5 is the all-rounder. 13.5 if you want a little bit more revs and you want it to be a little softer. But 9.5 you can go with, but generally that's super expert, you know.
Yeah. So, one other very important factor to consider is what the people that you're running with are running. If everyone is running the 10.5, well, you're probably going to struggle to keep up if you've got a 21.5. So my preferred option is to run as high as you can get away with. So I'd rather run a 13.5 than a 10.5 personally.
Yeah.
But if I go to the World Championships in Holland, I'm going to need to run a 10.5, or I'm going to struggle to keep up with people that are running 10.5s maxed out. Obviously,
basically, the lower the number, the more the torque, and the higher the number, the more the revs.
Yes.
So that's how it works. So if it's a 1.5, does that even exist?
No.
But if it was a a one-turn motor, it would have massive torque, and it'd be like like some sort of 20-litre V8. And then if it was a 21 turn motor, then it's going to be like a spindly F1 car motor, and just rev to 20,000 RPM, or 100,000 in this case.
Alex Wilson's also asked, I'm not going to mention the brands, but he says, why do my other brand motors feel so much harsher than the equivalent Luxon?
Because they're not as good. I didn't even read that, but that's
the components in the, as we say with everything with the Acuvance, are second to none.
Yeah.
They're also beautifully designed, very well made, and the tolerances are very, very, very exact. They are not designed to be the fastest motor that's out there. Acuvance is about more than just a kV rating on the box. You kind of need to ignore that when you're choosing a motor, particularly for racing. Some people will always go for the most powerful motor they can find. There's more to it. A smoother motor will enable you to be faster. And the Acuvance motors are as smooth as they can.
And we do test this. I mean, we're not going to start pulling out other brand motors, but if you're at the circuit, ask us. We'll take them out the box and we'll show you.
Yes.
We've got other motors here.
Yeah.
Very high-end motors, and you can do a direct comparison for yourself. So, the thing is it's quality with Acuvance. You get the quality, you get the refinement, and you get the expertise that's gone into it. So,
there's probably a couple of questions that are more aimed at you than me, because it's all about wiring.
Oh, yippee. I was going to mention a couple of bits about wiring.
Well, Jason Thompson has asked, any tips and tricks on how to tidy up cables on your chassis?
Get yourself a good dose of OCD.
Yeah.
That's really useful. But
take your time is very important as well.
I probably need to do a soldering guide, to be fair. But one thing I will point out here is I have different types of solder. The regulations in Japan are different. So specifically talking about the Acuvance range, I have a limited amount currently. I'm going to try and get more of leaded solder. And leaded solder it flows much more freely. So you can get the heat in there a lot quicker and break the solders quickly. And then I have just your standard, whatever you can buy at a local sort of pre-flux stuff that's there. What I will say, if you intend to solder any of the Acuvance products, you have 4 seconds per solder. That's it. If you go any longer than 4 seconds,
and
you're going to frazzle it. And less is better. If you can do it in like 1-2 seconds, tap, done, off, that's what you want. If you're holding it on there, or you're going back and back and back and back, you don't want to do that. If you feel you've gone a little long on a solder, leave the ESC alone, let it cool down. If you keep hacking at it, you'll be replacing PCBs.
We mentioned it earlier, but the standard solders that come with the ESCs are better than we've ever seen on anything, really.
They're machine soldered, so they're
perfect,
incredibly strong.
You have to recognise, no matter how good you are at soldering, you're not as good as a robot that's designed to solder, that's had billions of pounds spent on it in most cases. So be very, very careful when you're desoldering the wires. As we say, we get them with the black wires, so that in theory you don't have to anyway. We use the coloured braiding generally, or black braiding in this case, which you can see on our website.
You're better to put braiding on than you are to try and get the wires off.
For sure.
If you insist on getting the wires off the ESC, you need a good soldering iron. I run at 450 degrees C. You need leaded solder, and you need to cut the wires off with some nice sharp crimps, as short as possible. So you've literally just got the terminals left, and you can heat that and flick the excess wire out. That's the quickest way to do it. So you're not losing heat up the wire, and you're not putting heat straight into the ESC. You're literally just melting that solder down and flicking it off and getting rid of it. But timing is everything.
You've pretty much answered another of Alex Wilson's questions. which he was looking for some tips installing the electronics in terms of soldering and things like that. The only thing you haven't answered is ideal placement. And as we sort of alluded to earlier, when you're placing your ESC, you want airflow.
Yeah.
Ideally.
So mine is laid out in such a way that the surface of it is clear.
If the wires were pointing up here, then you're blocking a little bit of forward airflow, but you get some from the side. That's how they come as standard. It's fine.
Yeah.
But just keep an eye on your temperatures. If it's getting hot, maybe rotating your ESC by 90 degrees will cool things down for you.
And try and keep the wire lengths even. That's always a good
100%.
thing.
Yeah.
The only ones that we don't run even are the battery wires, and that's so you physically can't put it in the wrong way around, because that's a bad thing. So, next question.
Next question is Oyvind has asked.
Who's that, sorry?
Oyvind Danielson.
Oyvind.
He's asked, what's the meaning of timing? Timing is it changes the current that is delivered to the motor. Timing is very, very different mechanically to settings on your ESC. So you need to be very aware when you're setting your timing. If you add 20 degrees of timing mechanically and then 20 degrees of timing on your...
You've got 40 degrees of timing.
Yes, so that's quite a lot.
It's very much the same as ignition timing on a car. If you advance the timing, you'll get more response, but you'll run hotter and you'll risk, detonation, basically. So it's kind of the same thing, but in physical terms of how it feels, if you add timing, it will feel very sharp and responsive and quite aggressive and light. And then if you drop it down, it'll feel almost like you've put drag brake on. It'll feel heavier and planted and static. So what you want is a balance of those two factors. On my BS right now, I'm running 13 degrees of timing. Standard is 20. Generally, I mean, I've seen a lot of the Japanese guys testing, and generally nobody's gone up in static motor timing. Everybody comes down, and generally the sort of considered number is somewhere between 12 and 15 degrees. It's pretty bang on, but 20 is fine. 20 is absolutely fine. It's just if you drop it down, again, like Jay said, if I drop, because I've dropped mine to 13, it means I've got more of a range of adjustment available on the Tau 2.
Yeah.
So I can keep it steady, planted, and then when I change direction, big dump of power, whap, and then steady and planted again. So it's a balance.
Another sort of sub question that he has is about the difference between timing and drive frequency. Drive frequency is something very different. Essentially, you need to think of it as how many times per second the ESC is being updated, or the motor signal is being updated. As we mentioned before, the Tau 2 allows you to go up to 32 kilohertz. So that's 32,000 times per second. Essentially, think of it as a wave. The more frequency that you use, the more heat that it generates, because the more work that's happening. So you need to find a balance between your drive frequency, your brake frequency, and your neutral brake frequency. That gives you the performance you want, but without using too much heat. If you bang everything on full and then loads of timing, you're going to generate a lot of heat.
An interesting way to look at it. What do you actually run in terms of frequency at the moment?
Generally, I run very high on the drive frequency. Let's see what I've actually set to, but I think it's somewhere around 24 kilohertz. I actually haven't got this plugged in, and my settings are not saved on there because I've been tweaking it manually.
So you're 24.
24.
Drive frequency. Neutral brake?
Neutral brake is about 12, I think, and about 14 or 15 for brake, I believe, if I remember correctly.
I run 10 for drive frequency, 6 for neutral brake, and 8 for brake.
Okay.
So it's similar sort of spacing.
Yeah, staggering.
But in a different
But
part
obviously,
of the range.
we're also running different timing.
Exactly.
And actually, my settings are based on running a 13.5 motor.
But that that staggering where you've got your drive frequency high, your neutral brake frequency low, and your brake somewhere in the middle of those is kind of like a standard setting, a standard way of doing things. I mean, you can mess it around and try other stuff, but also bear in mind that if you go too low on drive frequency and you're advancing it back with the controller, or vice versa, you've got loads of advance and you've slowed it down with the controller, that can also generate heat. So everything is about balance. Try doing one thing at a time. Take your time with it.
For sure.
And just take
it's the same as we say with tuning the chassis.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you change everything at once, you don't know where you've brought a problem in or where the magic has come in.
Yeah.
You need to understand what each individual setting does.
Yeah.
And it's also worth being conservative with your settings initially and testing and building up. It's no good going and putting maximum timing on and setting everything to max, because you're going to have to back things off. And I think it's easier to see changes when you go up in settings.
Yeah, sure.
When you add more effectively.
Come on. Next question.
Okay, we've got. You have to bear with me. We've got lots of comments on this particular post because it mentioned the competition. We have a lot of questions that are not related to Acuvance, and I think we'll save them for next week. For a traditional waffle time.
We can answer them. I mean, it is the end of waffle
I
time.
suppose we might as well crack on. Taj has asked, should I build my Tetsujin Mark X or get my first ever overdose product, the Cresta?
You should do both of those things, because we like Tetsujin and we like overdose.
I like the Cresta, if I'm honest.
I like the Cresta.
I think the Tetsujin Mark X is a very cool looking body, but I think they're very difficult to build and look good.
Taj likes that though.
I know he likes
He's a fiddly bod.
the building side of it, but I don't know. I'm yet to see when
Taj, build both, and then we'll decide.
Yeah.
After.
Arno has asked, what's your take on positive camber on the rear? I tried it not too long ago and had the feeling that it pushed me a bit more through the corners as the inside rear wheel picks up a bit more grip due to chassis roll. I would never run positive rear camber, not in any situation ever.
I like it.
I would possibly run negative camber that rolled onto flat camber, but I would never go positive. It's not
that goes for full size cars as well, really.
Yeah,
it's a positive camber is a if your suspension is moving in a way that you need to run positive camber to get grip on squat, you've done something else wrong. That's the way I look at that.
Yeah, it's just not for me. I've tested it, obviously. Not for me. I would always run negative camber, and as I say, if you're running flat tires like the MSTGA 26, I would normally set them so that the tires were either flat on the back or just slightly negative, so that when you roll, they go onto the flat contact patch to give you the maximum grip. That's generally how it works with the slightly rounded tire like a CSR or the DS Racing or whatever. It works slightly differently, but essentially the same principle applies. I've always said it. So
if you don't believe us, you can check our cars at the Euros.
Yes, which will probably happen.
With roundy tyres. Oh man, I'm going to have to change all the settings.
Akhtar has asked.
Hey Akhtar.
Strange question, but what are you using to display bodies on the wall? Nothing fancy.
What are they?
No, what are we using to display them?
Oh, just bits of wire.
Yeah, they're basically hung from the ceiling with wire.
It's nothing magical. We do need to find a better way of doing it because it is a bit ghetto.
And the pain in the backside to add more.
Yeah, and the bottom one always sticks out, and it's kind of annoying.
Yes.
But, you know, they're just bodies. They're like just memories of drifting that's happened and places we've been. We've got some signed ones.
And some from friends.
We've got, we have a signed Samurai FC from Drift Samurai. We've got a signed Kaguchi 180SX. We've got a signed Blitz R34, signed by Nomaken. We've got Imamura's FD that's signed.
Yep.
And then we have a Supra that Tunksy took over to Yatabe that's signed by everybody.
Yes, all kinds of everybody.
Yeah. Really, I never got Tezuka to sign a body.
That needs to happen.
I know.
Next question. Taj has asked, will MST be making new T-shirts? An RMX shirt would be cool to have, like the RXXD. To be honest, I don't know. I'll ask them if they will. The RMXD is proven to be a very popular chassis, so it's quite possible it will.
It's a damn good chassis.
I think I will ask them that question today.
Okay.
So maybe we'll have maybe some shirts will appear, maybe not, but we'll see. I kind of think that says just about done, but I'll just check a couple of other spots.
While you're doing that, I'm going to say we do acknowledge incessant beeping.
Yeah, I don't know if that's been picked up by the camera. I'm hoping it is.
But
for some reason, since we started, our alarm has decided to start beeping, so we'll need to have a look at that today.
So a bit unusual. It's probably just crying like low battery or I don't know.
There it goes again.
Somebody opened the door and didn't close it properly. Something of that nature.
I think that says done for questions today.
All the questions?
I believe so.
There's some on YouTube.
There wasn't one I checked a little while ago. Come on.
There might be people asking, have a one yet?
Yeah.
Can I get my Acuvance goodies yet? Soon, everyone. They're coming. They're just sat there waiting for you.
No questions. So that's us done.
That is all good. So you now have to subscribe.
Well, one thing I was going to finish on before we get to the competition is if there is something we've talked about today that you want a full in-depth, high-quality, high-definition video rather than this useless stream that we have here, leave a comment on the video on YouTube, and if enough people like it or enough people agree, we'll put some time into making a video. I think we definitely need to do a wiring video for sure. I think we need to do some attachment area setup videos with the Tower 2, and possibly even a motor video showing the differences. But if there's anything specific you want to see, just ask away.
Can we do a Corolla special where?
Yeah, sure. If you buy me a Corolla,
I just show everyone my Corolla.
No, because I don't know. I think you want to. You need to buy more.
Do you know what the Corolla rear settings are? They're the same as every other Corolla in the world.
They're just bolted on.
Yeah, it's an axle.
It's attached.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, if you want to enter the competition, if you want to win all the goodies we showed you at the start of the video, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you need to share the post that will be up shortly on our Facebook page.
And you're going to like and favourite this ish today because you're going to become a Viking.
Like Rob has.
Like Rob has. Got to get it in there.
Don't like Rob has too.
I wonder if Rob has seen how much love I donate to Rob has.
We'll have to send him a message and see if he can send some love our way, because he's quite a bit more popular than we are in terms of YouTube subscribers.
He's quite funnier as well. Yeah, he's quite funnier. What's that?
Anyway, we're off for this week. We'll be back next week with a back to normal waffle time.
When's it ever normal?
I don't know. I think maybe one week we just need to have circus clowns going off behind us or something. Anyway, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching and see you soon.
Bye for now.
Bye.